Hey guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. And today we are going to rank the top 25 prospects in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. And we're ranking these prospects in order of how I would like them to be selected by our beloved, bless you boys, in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Well, I've always had my favorite players at the top of the draft. I've always had them ranked in tiers, and I've always looked at it as here's a tier. These guys are all pretty equal in this tier. Here's the next tier. If I can get one of these guys, I'm good to go. But eventually, in crunch time, in the draft room, you have to make a selection. So I figured I would rank these from 25 to 1 as if I were putting it in the computer and telling the computer how to go about drafting these players. If I had to make a selection in the draft room and I had my choice of my players on a certain tier, I'd have conversations with everyone in the room, the heat of the moment and everything else, we would make a selection. So I'm going about this as, all right, there's no human input. I have to rank these players. Whoever's left on the board, the computer has to pick whoever I have at the top of the list. That's how I'm going about it. And let's start at the bottom and work our way up. We're going to start with tier 6. And I have 3 players in this tier ranked 23, 24, and 25. Here we go. At number 25, I've got safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia. I think he's a safe pick in this draft. I think whoever gets Malachi Starks is going to get a safety that can do a little bit of everything. He's pretty good at everything. He's a solid player. I'm not sure if he's the best tackler in the world. I'm not sure if he could spend a lot of time deep, but I'm pretty sure that he's close. And if you get this guy in the draft, you're going to have a nice pro, and it won't be a mistake. It would be a mistake taking him at 9, but this is how I have him ranked. He's at number 25, and if he were to slip into the second round, yeah, he'd be on the top of the list for second rounders for sure. So that's what I got to say about these lower rated players. Not all of them are going to be in play for pick 9, but if any of them were to slip in the round 2, these would be how I would have them prioritized. So at number 24, I'm going with defensive end Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. He's a big guy. I think he did the combine around 265, 270, something like that, but his playing weight all last year was around 280. And I think Nick Scorton is the kind of guy that could fit as a defensive end in our new 3-4 scheme. I also think that he has enough athleticism and pass rush ability that he could actually be an end in a 4-man front as well. And he's thick enough to be able to move around the line. So I like the prospect of Nick Scorton. Um, Absent from my top 25 list, I can say right now, are 2 edge rushers who are a different style than Scorton, but who I think would be right here in the mix. And that would be Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College and James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Now, James Pierce Jr. has the ability to be in the top 10, top 5 even. He's on par with Jalen Walker from Georgia, something like that. I have character concerns about the guy. And as far as Ezeraku goes, he's just really, really small. He's a pass rush demon. And grabbing him at the top of the second round would be a great piece. I just think you're going to get more mileage out of a guy like Nick Scorton. So if the second round starts and James Pierce Jr. is there along with Donovan Ezeraku, and Nick Scorton, the computer would be told by me to grab Nick Scorton first. But there is value in Ezeraku and, of course, James Pierce Jr. And I had to mention those two, especially right here, talking about Scorton. Yeah, I would direct the computer to take Scorton first. But man, James Pierce Jr. is right there. He might be too good to pass up in round two. When it's all said and done, as a human in the war room, I might go ahead and grab James Pierce Jr., especially if I've had interviews with him and could get over this block of mine in drafting him. But for right now, Scorton's at 24. At number 23, I'm going with wide receiver Matthew Golden out of Texas. Golden is not the size profile we want. He's, hovering right around 6 foot, under 6 foot, under 200 pounds, but he's a playmaker. And I was very impressed with Matthew Golden throughout the college season this past year. Anytime Texas needed a first down on a third down, they had good playmakers, okay? They had Jaden Blue at running back who could get a lot of good stuff done. Toward the end of the season, tight end Gunnar Helm was doing well for Texas. But the man of the year was Matthew Golden throughout the whole year, converting third downs into first downs, catching short passes and making big plays out of them. And even in the red zone, as small as Matthew Golden is, it seemed like he was the guy finding the end zone quite a bit, getting open and finding the end zone in the red zone for a little wide receiver. That tells me playmaker. I've been impressed with Golden all year long. I think that although it's not the size profile we want, I think that Golden would be a great player. He would be a safe pick for me. This guy can cover kicks on special teams. He has return ability. He can return kicks and punts. So I know that you would get use out of Matthew Golden on your team, even if he weren't able to crack the roster as a wide receiver, but I'm pretty sure he would. He's just a playmaker. You put him out on the field, he makes plays for you. So I'm a big fan of Golden. I have him here at 23, and that is tier 6 for me. Let's go to tier 5. And this tier, I have four more players, 19 through 22. Starting with number 22, wide receiver Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. I would direct the computer to grab Higgins before Golden because although I feel Golden is a great playmaker, I'm a sucker for that size profile. It's what the Saints are really lacking, and my top two receivers are Tetairoa McMillan and Jaden Higgins. And I've got Higgins ranked here at number 22. He's big, he's athletic. The only fault I have on Higgins really is although he's 6'4", almost 220 pounds, he doesn't play like a big receiver. He doesn't use his body like a big tight end or something like that. I mean, he has size and he uses his size to his advantage. He just doesn't play big. He plays more like he's a small guy. And because he's fast and athletic for his size, he gets away with it. And he shows a lot as a big player when he's able to do stuff like that, creating separation, using moves, and, getting to a second level speed. All this stuff is great for a big wide receiver. I just feel like if he's standing there in the middle of the field and you throw it to him, you know, he he'll go up and get it because he's taller than the guy next to him. He just needs to learn how to use his size, I think, a little bit more effectively. I think he could be a 100% first round pick if he could put all of that together. His hands are consistent. I like the movement. I'm a big fan of Jaden Higgins. I would never take him in the first round unless we traded down until the bottom of the first round and other positions were wiped out. But I have to mention Higgins. He is definitely one of my top 25 players and always a target for the Saints in the second round at pick 40. At pick 21, at number 21, I'm going with the nose tackle, defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. The big nose tackle, 320 something, 30 pounds. The only knock on Grant, he is a mid first round projection. The only knock on him is that maybe he takes plays off sometimes because you see on the tape, he's a massively effective run stopper and he can get after the quarterback. And for a guy his size, he gets after the quarterback pretty good. So when you see Grant achieve all of this spectacular stuff, but you watch a full game of Michigan, you can go play after play without anything happening, and you wonder, where it's at. Of course, he had Mason Graham next to him for most of the year, so I guess it would be a little easier to take plays off when you've got all that going on. And then they were switching spots too. Grant was playing all kinds of spots on the line, but I think Grant's a great piece in the middle of the defensive line. I think it would be a solid run stuffer, and I think he is talented enough to get after the passer. So, an upgrade from Colin Saunders for sure, in my opinion. If you grab a guy like Kenneth Grant, I wouldn't take him with pick 9, of course, but yeah, he would be top priority in the second round if he were to fall that far. At pick at number 20 for me, I've got tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Colston Loveland is a solid tight end. I think my favorite is Tyler Warren for sure, but I think Colston Loveland gives you a lot of the same flexibility at tight end that Tyler Warren would. I wouldn't line Colston Loveland up at quarterback and have him run the ball or anything like that, but the skill level of Colston Loveland is actually more similar to Brock Bowers than Tyler Warren. So I would say that who's more similar to Brock Bowers, I would say between Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, I'd probably say Colston Loveland. They're both smaller. Brock Bowers isn't as big as Tyler Warren. Neither is Colston Loveland. You know, pretty decent run blocker, really good receiver, and is a playmaker. So no, he's not as good as Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is on a whole other level from both of them, probably. But I just think Loveland is a little more similar to Bowers. I'll take the difference in Warren. I'll take the bigger guy who's still skilled than the little guy. But Loveland's a special guy. And if I were stuck in the bottom of the first round and Tyler Warren was off the board and I had my choice of all of these players that I've mentioned so far, I would take Loveland above all of them. And I'd feel pretty good about it. The last person on this tier, ranked number 19 on my top 25 list, is defensive tackle Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Walter Nolan is a three-tech defensive tackle who I think is good enough, athletic enough to be able to play a 3-4 end. You might even get some work out of him on the end of an even front, but he certainly can play defensive tackle, three-tech, and then if you're rushing the passer, if it's passing downs, you can put him anywhere on the line. I really like Walter Nolan. I think when he gets after the passer, it looks really impressive. Probably as impressive as any other defensive tackle in this draft. And he's very solid against the run. So I like I like the idea of drafting Walter Nolan, even though it indicates that you might be kind of moving away from Brian Bresee. See, in my opinion, Walter Nolan and Brian Bresee play the same position. A three-tech defensive end who you hope is good enough against the run where you can keep him out there on the line. Right now, we can't do that with Bresee. Right now, we put Nathan Shepard in the game on running downs, and then Bresee comes in on passing downs. And if Bresee's in there and they run the ball, then it's an issue. So we draft Walter Nolan. He takes Brian Bresee's place. Brian Bresee's only seeing the field when it's obvious passing situations. Because if I'm going to have a 280 to 300 pound guy on the defensive line, I want to make sure he can stop the run. I think there's a chance Walter Nolan can be a better run stopper than Brian Bresee. A big chance. Now, Brian Bresee is great at getting after the passer. I think he had 7.5 sacks this past year. And if Brian Bresee does that again this year, then yeah, there's a lot of teams in the league that'd be willing to pay top dollar for a defensive tackle that can get 7, 8 sacks a game. And then they can learn about how you have to put in other players on running downs because Bresee just can't seem to figure it out against the run. Well, that's why I have Walter Nolan so high on the list. He's at number 19. He's at the top of this four-man tier, my fifth tier here. If all of these guys were available, the computer would be directed to take Walter Nolan, and we would get better at stopping the run on defense. All right, let's go to the next tier, tier 4, and I have 4 players on this tier. 15, 16, 17, and 18. Now, this is when we start talking about possibilities at pick 9 for the Saints. This is crazy. My fourth tier here has 4 offensive linemen. I'm putting these 2 tackles up here because tackle is an extremely important position. And when you're drafting in the first round, there's 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 a reality here. There's 4 positions that you got to focus on in the first round. You have to, because these positions are so important. These positions, getting the best player at these positions is important. Whatever you can get in the first round is probably way better than what you can get in any other round. And the 4 positions I'm talking about: quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, and cornerback. Now, out of those 4 positions, quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, cornerback, you're pretty sure the quarterback is going to be better in round 1 than what you can get later on in the draft. In this particular draft, I don't think there's enough quarterbacks to really focus on round 1. So I'm thinking any quarterback you can get in round 2, you can get somebody comparable in round 3, maybe round 4 in this particular draft. But typically, quarterback is your number 1 position to focus on in the first round. And then that left tackle, that's usually the next up. Defensive end has always been a high priority position in the first round. The Saints have taken so many defensive ends and missed that we're kind of wishy washy, maybe iffy on this getting a defensive end in the first round. We're kind of sick of it. Now you can get some defensive linemen in the second round, third round that are productive. As a matter of fact, this past season in the NFL, if you look at all of the sack leaders, the top 10 sack leaders, almost all of them weren't drafted in the first round. Most of them were second, third round picks, later round picks. So it's not impossible to get a good defensive lineman. And in this draft, it's very possible with the depth of defensive line this year. And then you look at the other position, cornerback. Well, there's a couple of great cornerbacks at the top of this draft. And like I said, I love the next 4 or 5 after that. So I think in this particular draft, cornerback is something you can look at in the second round. So that brings me to left tackle. The top 4 tackles in this draft to me: Will Campbell, Armand Membou, and then Kelvin Banks and Josh Simmons right after that. If Armand Membou and Will Campbell are gone before pick 9, there's a very real chance, if you think offensive tackle, if you think a player at offensive tackle in Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons is so good that you'd rather take that player because of that importance of position, right? Instead of anybody else that's on this list, I wouldn't have an issue with it. If we take Kelvin Banks with the number 9 overall pick, I won't have an issue with it. If you're convinced that the medicals are fine on Josh Simmons, then you might be getting the best offensive tackle in the draft in Josh Simmons. I have him down here with Kelvin Banks at number 16 and not in my top 10 because of the injury concern. And that's it. If he comes back and he looks anything like he did in the first half of last year before he got hurt, then you're talking about a great offensive tackle. And I have to focus on that. I have to put Kelvin Banks and Josh Simmons at the top of this tier, right next to my draftable players at pick 9. If the Saints grab Josh Simmons with pick 9, I'm going to be a little concerned. And at the same time, I'm going to feel like we got one of the best 4 offensive tackles. Last year, we got the 5th rated offensive tackle, and he's going to be a starter for us for a long time in Fuanga. So, yeah, I really like Banks. I really like Simmons. If I was in the room, I might have to fight with the computer to take Kelvin Banks over anybody else that's left on this list. But I'm putting it in as a ranking, and right now, Kelvin Banks is 15, Josh Simmons is 16. Everybody else ahead of them would get picked ahead of them, but man, they are close. And of course, I've got the 2 guards here. At number 17, Gray Zabel. At number 18, Donovan Jackson. Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. I think this is right around the area he's going to get drafted. I think he's getting picked by Seattle at 18. I've got him ranked at 17, and I've got Donovan Jackson. Now, Donovan Jackson in a lot of people's mocks are he's a second round guy, maybe late second round guy. But I would have to consider Donovan Jackson ahead of everybody else that I've mentioned. Because with Walter Nolan at defensive tackle, you've got Brissy. You're hoping Brissy gets better at run stopping. You're kind of taking the place of one of our best players by getting Walter Nolan. And everybody else I mentioned on that last tier. If you get Donovan Jackson, he's going to start at left guard, and he's going to be an upgrade on what you have on the team now. That's truly how I feel. I feel like Walter Nolan would be an upgrade because of his run stopping. But if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Donovan Jackson. I think there's a clear way to make this team better. If you don't replace Brian Brissy, you're still going to be okay. If you don't get a starting left guard, you're not going to be okay. I have a lot of value in Donovan Jackson and Gray Zabel. And yeah, if I was putting it in and I was directing the computer, those 2 guys would be picked ahead of everyone else I've mentioned. And then Josh Simmons and then Kelvin Banks. And now we're going to get into my top 14. And these are the players that I would be considering at pick 9 before these offensive tackles. So let's go to tier 3. And this is the first half of my top 14. I have a top 4 that's an elite tier. And then I had a tier of 10 players after that. I've split that tier up into 2. This is the bottom half of that 10-player tier. And all 5 of these players are on defense. Starting at number 14 with linebacker edge rusher Jalen Walker out of Georgia. If he was on the board at 9 with Kelvin Banks, I would really have to consider Kelvin Banks. But I'm putting Walker here. I'm putting him ahead in my rankings, and then the computer would pick Walker ahead of Banks, and I would have to deal with it. But they're really close, really close. I like Walker. I think the prospects of him making it a linebacker are pretty good. And then as an edge rusher, yeah, he's a good player. It's still linebacker, and I don't think he's a great linebacker. I just think he'll make it at linebacker. So it's kind of like, you hope you get a lot out of him when he's on the field. Hopefully he could be on the field as a linebacker all the time and be making plays for you everywhere and not just a pass rush specialist. The guy right ahead of him at number 13, edge rusher Mike Green out of Marshall. Now he's just an edge rusher. He's too small to play defensive end every down. I think he plays the run just fine, but those smaller edge rushers, you feel like they're not going to be on the field as much. Jalen Walker, I would have at linebacker all the time, and I would try to force that guy to be a good linebacker and then rush him whenever I could. But I think Mike Green is a slightly better pass rusher. And that's why I have the edge to Mike Green. I look at Mike Green, I look at Jalen Walker. I see a clear path for Walker to play linebacker. I'm not sure about Mike Green playing linebacker every down, but I'm pretty sure Mike Green's going to get after the passer really well. Jalen Walker, too. It's really close. I think there's a possibility that Walker's a more complete player, but I love the upside of Mike Green as a pass rusher. So that's where I battle with those two. And if I had to put one ahead of the other, I would tell the computer grab Mike Green before Jalen Walker. But before both of them, I would have the computer grab linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. This is a linebacker that I want on the field every play. I don't want him ever leaving the field. I know he's going to be a great linebacker. He's an accomplished linebacker. I know he's going to cover well. He's going to stop the run very well. And if I need to rush the passer with him, he's going to do that very well too. So maybe Mike Green is the best pass rusher out of the three. I think Campbell is obviously the best linebacker out of the three. And Campbell's the best run stopper out of the three. So I'm giving the edge to Campbell, literally the edge. Because if I was going to grab an edge player in this draft, number one would be Abdul Carter. And then after that, I would direct my computer to pick Jahad Campbell. Okay, the last two on this tier are the cornerbacks. Cornerback Jahdae Barron, cornerback Will Johnson. Jahdae Barron out of Texas is a guy that you can put in multiple positions. And I think in the Brandon Staley defense, this is the kind of guy that would fit very well. You're, you, it, I think what Brandon Staley likes to do is he likes to show a certain defense, and then at the snap of the ball, he likes players to move and assume different roles. So both safeties are playing back. When the ball is snapped, one of them comes to the line of scrimmage. You're not sure before the snap which one's coming. With a guy like Jahdae Barron, it's the same thing. You could have him lined up as a nickelback, and then at the snap of the ball, he could drop back at safety and be a very functional safety. You could have Jahdae Barron lined up on the outside, and at the snap of the ball, he stays outside. So he's a flexible player like that. He could line up on the outside as a cornerback, and at the snap of the ball, motion back to safety, or come in as a nickel and get to the line of scrimmage and make tackles on the running back or blitz the quarterback. Jahdae Barron is an all-around player. So I think his fit in this defense would be fascinating. I think it would be confusing for defenses, and I think he's got the all-around skill set to be able to pull it off. Will Johnson, on the other hand, is a guy that I would put on the outside and I would keep on the outside. But I would feel really happy about that. I think he's the best outside corner in the draft. And I think if you draft Will Johnson, you have a starter. You know, he takes Marshawn Lattimore's place. And that puts Alontae Taylor back at nickel, where he can be flexible. You know, a lot of people see Alontae Taylor as a safety. I see him as a nickel back. I think he's Pro Bowl caliber nickel back. The way he can blitz, the way he's stout against the run. And yeah, there's a big plus. If you get Will Johnson and you put him on the outside, I think you've got Will Johnson and Kool-Aid McKinstry, you're good. Isaac Yiadom comes in on the outside if anybody gets hurt, and keep Alontae at nickel. I really love that. I love the prospect of that. So Barron and Johnson are just neck and neck. I think Barron will be fine on the outside. I just love his versatility. And if he excels at nickel, safety, or outside, then maybe you keep Barron at where he's best. But I think as a player who's flexible, I just love what Barron could look like in this defense. So I have to put one ahead of the other. I'm telling the computer Slight edge on Jahdae Barron over Will Johnson, but seriously, either one of them would be a huge boost for this team. Those are the bottom five in my 10 tier, 10 player tier. And now we're going to rank tier two, which is the top of this top 10. And then, my top tier is four players. Here are, after those top four players, here are the next five. And yeah, we pick at nine. So the five I showed you before were all defense. That was just by chance. If I had to rank these players, these five offensive players would be ahead of the five defensive players. Number nine, running back Ashton Jeanty. Love the player. Would be fine taking him at nine. And I would hope that Ashton Jeanty would be the jersey that everyone was wearing back when we had Drew Brees. Everyone had a Drew Brees jersey, right? Everyone could buy the Ashton Jeanty jersey, and he could be the running back of the future for the Saints. And he could split time with Kamara his first couple of years, even though he's got a lot of wear and tear on his small body already. Help him out for a couple of years, and then hopefully he could be the guy for years to come. Well, there's a lot of depth at running back this year in the draft class. There's a lot of running backs in the later rounds that I really like. It's not like any of them are anywhere near as good as Jeanty. And it's not like I would be so against drafting a running back early. It's just in this class, with Alvin Kamara under contract, everyone says you need another running back. You do need a running back. You need a running back who's going to help you in the passing game because Kendre Miller can't. You need a running back that's going to stay healthy, that's a good runner, who's going to help you in the passing game, which Kendre Miller can't. So you're going to get better at running back if you get another running back, but you got to make sure he's good at pass protection and good in the passing game because he's got to be better than Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller's going to be hurt for half the year, and then my neighbor walking across the street would be a better pick than Kendre Miller because Miller's going to be recovering from an injury. Okay, so I just feel like you could put anybody in there and we're better off than Kendre Miller. But if Kendre Miller stays healthy, you're definitely going to have somebody better than Miller if he can just handle functioning as a receiver and a pass protector. So all that being said, Ashton Jeanty's the best running back in the class. I've got him here at nine. I would take these other offensive players ahead of Jeanty. As a matter of fact, I look at Jeanty kind of like I look at Shadir Sanders. There's other players I would draft ahead of him. But those two players might be someone wants to come up and get. And if Dallas was offering me a trade back, they want to trade up to get Jeanty, and Jeanty's on the board for me, I would take the trade down. I value Jeanty as a running back. He may turn out to be one of the best running backs in the league, but he's a good bargaining chip. And yeah, he's number nine on my list. So there's eight other players I would take ahead of him. Yeah, including those offensive linemen. So at number eight, wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan. So if Jeanty and McMillan were on the board, I would direct the computer to take McMillan first. Like I said, the depth at running back I'm so attracted to. I really like Ashton Jeanty, but I see we have Alvin Kamara. I look at our wide receivers and I see we've got some good wide receivers that are all 6 foot. We don't have a guy like Tetairoa McMillan on our team. We literally have an Ashton Jeanty on our team. My comp to Ashton Jeanty is Alvin Kamara. So we literally have the OG Ashton Jeanty on our team. He's old too. But we don't have a guy like McMillan. And yeah, if it came down to Jeanty or McMillan, I would edge Jeanty. I would edge McMillan. I, I could be convinced in the war room to go with Jeanty. But McMillan's the size we want. Big player. I comp him the Colston all the time. And even though he's not the love of my life in this draft. He's one spot ahead of Ginty, and I would not be upset with getting McMillan. I want Jaden Higgins real bad, but there's no guarantee Higgins makes it to the second round. Millen at number 9, Ginty at number 9. Both of them feel a little rich, but they're playmakers and they're players that I'd be fine with at number 9. And we don't have a McMillan on our team. We could use it. But ahead of Ginty and McMillan, I've got Tyler Warren and both these offensive linemen. Now, that would really upset some Saints fans if Tetero McMillan and Ashton Ginty were on the board and the Saints go ahead and grab Armand Mimbu or Will Campbell instead. That would really piss some Saints fans off. But in my opinion, I'd be very happy with it. We have a need at running back. We have a need at wide receiver. We also have a Pro Bowl running back in Alvin Kamara, and we have a Pro Bowl type wide receiver in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. So it's not like we're bare bones at wide receiver and running back. We're bare bones on the offensive line. To me, Trevor Penning is an issue at tackle. I look at Chris Olave, and as long as he's healthy, he's performing as a wide receiver. Rashid Shaheed is doing very well as a wide receiver. Trevor Penning at tackle, not so much. Cesar Ruiz at guard, not so much. And who's playing left guard for us? We don't know. So yeah, I value Armand Mimbu and Will Campbell very highly. This is how I would have it ranked in my computer. If McMillan and Ginty are there and Will Campbell's still there, you take Will Campbell. And personally, I would play Campbell at guard because I think that's where he would help the team out the most. As much as I hate Trevor Penning on the right tackle, uh, we don't even have a starter at left guard right now. The new guy we just signed, I don't know. Is he going to be better at left guard than Trevor Penning is at right tackle? Well, if he can pass block, then yes, he'll be better at left guard than Trevor Penning is at right tackle. So maybe both of these tackles end up playing starting and Trevor Penning is sitting on the bench. Either way. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I have Armand Mimbu at pick 7. I see him on the right side only, which is fine. He's better than Cesar Ruiz at guard. He would be better than Trevor Penning at tackle. I would keep Fuanga at left tackle, start Armand Mimbu, trade Trevor Penning for whatever I can get, let somebody else sign him to a new contract, not me. I need a pass protector on my offensive line. I need Derek Carr to have more than 2 seconds to throw the ball. And yeah, if it was Campbell, and I'm going with Campbell at number 6 because I think Campbell could make it at left tackle. Armand Mimbu's a great tackle. I've never seen him do it on the left side yet. I didn't know if Fuanga could make it on the left side, and he did. So when it's all said and done, Mimbu's got the better measurables than Will Campbell. If Mimbu could switch over to left side and pull it off, he might end up a better prospect overall. But I give the edge to Will Campbell. I think he's going to make it at left tackle. You can put Fuanga back at right tackle, and I'm really happy. Or you can put him at left guard, and I'm really happy. And the last player on this tier is tight end Tyler Warren. Out of all of these players, the last 10 that I've mentioned, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, Jahad Campbell, Mike Green, Jalen Walker, Ashton Ginty, Tetero McMillan, Campbell, Mimbu. I would take Tyler Warren ahead of all of them. Tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I think he's a difference maker. I think he's a playmaker. I think he gives you the playmaking ability, the playmaking option that Ginty and McMillan gives you, and he also gives you the stability and the blocking that you would get out of a tackle. So, yeah, I think it would be a huge difference maker. And in Moore's offense, I'm thinking Tyler Warren would be an excellent piece. Love the idea of Tyler Warren coming in here. I have him as my 5th ranked player in this draft. Crazy, I know. That's how I would have the computer directed. with all these players left. Give me Tyler Warren. Give me a player who's going to be a matchup nightmare. Give me a player who, when he's in the huddle, you don't know where he's going to line up. Give me a player who is as effective as Warren is at everything he does do. And his PFF grades on run blocking's not all that. If you watch the games, it's kind of a weird thing. He gives up on his blocks too quick. I think it's just a matter of really digging in. I think once he gets a hold of somebody, he's got him. He needs to block through the whistle. That's about it. I have no issues with his ability to run block and to receive. He's slow, he's lumbering, but he's got the size. He uses his body well, and when he has the ball in his hands, he can stiff arm and he can break through tackles and stuff. So I'm sold on Warren. I'm sold on Warren being a massive upgrade on this team and a playmaker. I don't worry about Juwan Johnson's contract. We've got a place on this team for Juwan Johnson because we can line up a Warren anywhere. We can put Warren in line and split Johnson out. We can have two tight ends. We can have Warren play running back for a play and Johnson block on the line. We have room on this team for two tight ends. And like Kellen Moore said, if we end up getting a player that doesn't seem like he fits, well, we're just going to fashion the offense to make it fit. And if we end up with two great tight ends, we're going to be running two tight end sets a lot. And I love the flexibility, versatility of Tyler Warren. And now the final four, of course. I always talk about my final four, and there they are. A lot of people don't consider Mason Graham as a must choose. I think that if Mason Graham is on the board, you go ahead and grab him because he would improve this team greatly. I talked about Walter Nolan and his ability to be a three-tech defensive tackle and an even front and a defensive end and a 3-4. And I look at Mason Graham the same way. You're getting a good run stopper. You're getting a good rusher of the passer. Mason Graham is better than Walter Nolan, slightly better than Walter Nolan. And this is a piece that I think for the Saints, you just don't pass. We have so many issues in the trenches that if you can get a bona fide guy on the defensive line, you go ahead and grab it. And yeah, I feel like Mason Graham is that guy. I've seen a lot from Mason Graham. And the same thing, he's got so much talent that if he doesn't do a lot during a game, you think he's taking plays off or whatever. He's number four on this list, but yeah, if Tyler Warren and Mason Graham were on the board, I would have the computer take Mason Graham. Top of this list is quarterback Cam Ward. He would probably be in the top five quarterbacks next year, definitely top six quarterbacks next year. He's not the greatest quarterback prospect, but it is a position of need, and he is just good enough of a player where I would go ahead and take that first pick on him. And if I had the first overall pick, it would be quarterback Cam Ward. And I would hope that he's better than Jameis Winston. I would hope that he's, at least diet Cam Newton. And I would hope that he would be a great quarterback. My prospects for Cam Ward being a great quarterback, I don't know. But a franchise quarterback, a quarterback that you can build a team around, a quarterback who has the tools to get things done, a quarterback that I have confidence in. I like the way he reads the field. I like his decision making. I love his arm. He's really accurate. So, yeah, give me Cam Ward all day. But the two most impressive athletes in the draft, sans Ashton Genty, are edge rusher Abdul Carter and the cornerback wide receiver Travis Hunter. And I give Carter the edge at edge. He's a physical beast. He's built like a linebacker. He's tough enough and strong enough to hold up on the run. He can put his hand in the dirt, but I wouldn't be doing that with him a lot. So there's that question of whether Carter's going to function as an outside linebacker for most downs. He's such a good piece. You could just plug him anywhere. Abdul Carter is like Jihad Campbell to me. Slightly less effective as a pure linebacker, but he's just an athlete. You want him on the field, and you want him at going after the quarterback. And I trust Carter against the run versus the run. So I've got Carter number 2 here as the pure best physical freak athlete. Even though Travis Hunter did those freaky athletic things in college, Hunter is just a touch light for me. 6 foot, like 188 pounds. So he's not too small to play wide receiver. He's not too small to play cornerback, but he's on the smaller side of that size when it comes to cornerback and wide receiver. But he's not too small to do either one. And he's massively effective at both. Hunter's, in my opinion, the best cornerback in the draft. And as a wide receiver, he's the best playmaker in the draft. I would take Travis Hunter for the Saints and play him at cornerback and then have packages for him at wide receiver, but he would be playing every down at cornerback. That would be my preferred use for Travis Hunter. And the versatility and the playmaking ability, he might be the best player in the draft. But because of the size, I give a slight edge to Abdul Carter. His ability to transition into the league and be effective, I see that clearly. I think Travis Hunter is going to be a great player too, and he would be one of these four. Don't pass on prospects. But if I had to put it in the computer, Ward would be 1, Carter would be 2, Hunter would be 3, and Graham would be 4. Tyler Warren would be 5. So there you go. That's my top 25. Of course, I've left out James Pierce Jr. I've left out Donovan Ezeraku. I've left out Shadir Sanders. I've left out all of the other good cornerbacks, Savon Ravel and Trey Amos, Benjamin Morrison and Darian Porter, and so many good cornerbacks you can grab in the second round. I've also left off Mikal Williams. I think that he would be priority second round guy, but not sold on Mikal Williams right now. And there you go. I don't know if you guys agree with this. I'm pretty sure that between 5 and 14, you guys would have some questions. If we take Will Campbell with Ashton Jennings sitting there, I'm sure you guys would lose your mind. If we take Armand Membu over Genty, you might lose your mind. This is how I would direct a computer to do it. I'm pretty excited about this. And yeah, picking at number 9, you figure you're going to get somebody in that top 14. So you guys let me know what you think. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos about the Saints. The draft is in 2 weeks. I can't wait. Let me know how you feel about all of this. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?